we're back talking some more Invincible Season 2 on the channel. Episode 4, we have reached the conclusion of Part 1, and what a way to conclude Part 1. In my opinion, I've been saying for a very long time, out of the 4 episodes, this by far was my favorite of the bunch. Considering we delve into more of Mark's reunion with his father, some big brutal action sequences, and all around just a great cliffhanger to lead into Part 2 when that inevitably does come out at some point next year, I'm assuming. Before fully jumping into Mark and Nolan's reunion, I was glad that we got a little bit of a recap on what exactly Omni-Man's been doing all of this time, ever since he flew into space following what he did to Mark. Surprisingly, the results of that journey are quite somber. The idea that Omni-Man for a while was just flying through space all alone in the world to reflect on everything he's done alone with just his thoughts. To the point where it seemed like he was going to end it all, till fate stepped in, had him saving the Thoraxins and becoming their leader in the process. Now, with how everything went down between Mark and Omni-Man the last time they spoke, I was nervous what exactly this first conversation was going to be like, and it ended up being quite the roller coaster of emotions. Understandably, Mark at first is quite angry, reluctant to listen to anything his father has to say to him, or why he brought Mark here in the first place. But despite his anger and reluctance, and probably the fact that he's very far away from home and so he can't just fly back that easily, he does inevitably give in to listening to his father. With so much drama between Mark and Nolan, it would only be fitting if the moment that Omni-Man starts telling Mark the truth about everything and why he's here, everything just goes off the rails immediately, gradually getting more chaotic as he reveals more stuff to Mark. I've been revealing to Mark that he has a whole new family, a new wife. Most shocking thing of all, I think, is the reveal that he has a new son as well. Mark has a half-brother, which is the main catalyst for why Mark is here in the first place. In between all these details where Nolan is telling Mark about his new life that he's found here on this planet, it is really fascinating to just see how different Omni-Man is now compared to how he was all throughout Season 1. It almost seems like in saving the Thoraxins, he's developed a sort of conscience and empathy, which were two major things that we saw he was lacking by the time he left at the tail end of Season 1. As it was hinted at last week when the Viltrumites appeared and beat the crap out of Al and the alien, Nolan knows it's inevitable at this point that the Viltrumites are looking out for him since he left his post, and eventually they are going to find him, and when they do, they're definitely going to kill his son the moment they see him, because the Viltrumites are pretty terrible people and consider these Thoraxins an inferior race. In general, this comes across as a wild strategy for Nolan, despite the fact the last time these two spoke, he beat Mark within an inch of his life, called Mark's mother, his wife, a pet, and then left them behind and started a whole new family on this new planet. Hopefully he'll forgive him just enough to fight side by side with him and train so he can take on the Viltrumites and the Thoraxins can survive. Like, I do understand why Mark does agree in the end, but still, this is a lot to just dump on Mark, especially considering the fact that Viltrumites show up immediately once they discuss everything. Mark and Omni-Man's storyline does take up a bulk of episode 4, but there still are some pretty solid developments in several of the side stories that we get as well. For example, Debbie at this point probably couldn't be at a lower point, distraught, walking the streets, rightfully feeling betrayed about Nolan's true nature. Still, I quite liked her conversation that she had with Art, venting to him about her feelings. I thought that stuff was very powerful and a big help building back her confidence and just showing how strong of a character she truly is. As for some of the other ones, it's tough because as much as I like Eve as a character, it feels like overall at this point they just don't know what to do with her storyline, injecting her into these episodes. Still love the battle between her and Kill Cannon on the bridge. All that stuff was pretty epic, but I'm unsure necessarily what we're building for towards her arc, just because she doesn't get a whole lot of screen time, so I'm not sure exactly what the direction we're going with for her is. There's actually quite a bit of storylines juggling in the background when you really think about it. You have the stuff with Eve, stuff with Debbie, there's even some stuff with the Muller twins here, but nothing substantial. Just another Muller twin gets murdered. And yet, still no Angstrom. We've not seen any payoffs yet whatsoever, but you know, they have to leave some stuff dangling in the balance for part 2. And same for Donald, because Donald's going through an existential crisis, seeing everything that happened with the Donald that died last season. We shift back to the conflict between Mark, Omni-Man, and the Viltrumites. Regardless of how Mark felt about the situation with his father having a whole new family, I'm glad that we had this one-on-one conversation between him and his new wife, since it does give a better understanding of her relationship with Nolan, and I think it makes Mark realize that despite all of his anger, it's really not their fault that they're put in this situation. From here on out, though, the rest of episode 4, it's just pure brutal madness, and I loved all of it. it. Right from when Lucan crashes into the cave to try and take out everyone. You truly see just how strong some of these Viltrumites are when they try and fight Invincible. I mean, we did just see them beat the crap out of Alan the Alien, but even still, Invincible didn't stand much of a chance either. I mean, Mark tries his best, but this Viltrumite is crushing him into the ground with one finger, till thankfully Omni-Man steps in, chops his stomach open, and impales him to a wall. I've said it time and time before, but it still is just so frustrating seeing how much of a menace these Viltrumites are. We once again see how much carnage they've inflicted in the meantime, massacring all these Thraxans. That alone was upsetting, but even to the point where even Omni-Man is pissed off about it, that he actually has feelings for once. The most awesome epic fight out of the entire part 1 of Invincible Season 2 is this one-on-one battle between Omni-Man and a Viltrumite and Mark trying to take on this buff, roided up Aunt May looking Viltrumite named Thula. These are the type of battles that I was most excited for in Invincible, just these all-out bloody, relentless brawls where pretty much everybody is going all out, blood spewing everywhere, just pure chaos. I lived for it. Even if, like usual, I go into these battles extremely nervous for Mark because most of the time he gets the crap beaten out of him, even if he usually does win. Thula is just on a whole other level of madness. I mean, she's literally got a blade in her hair that she uses as a weapon. In this instance, at least, thankfully, despite Invincible getting his ass beaten by Thula at first, Nolan is there to coach him up a little bit to remind them that the Viltrumites are pretty much always going to try and kill you. They're not trying to hold back in any shape or form, so you shouldn't be holding back either. Go all out, fight or flight at this point. Mark does finally dig deep and get some great shots in on Thula and pretty much wins the fight, but he hesitates when he goes for the killing blow and he does get stabbed because of it. But you know, I wasn't fully expecting him to just go all in immediately and just kill her. But we're getting there, I guess. The sequences that follow this with Omni-Man pretty much cements why Mortal Kombat put Omni-Man in their most recent video game. You've got Omni-Man going from crushing the skull of one of the Viltrumites to saving Mark by bashing in the jaw of Thula. Very much like a Mortal Kombat fatality. This show though, man, it gives you pretty much no time to breathe. You think you're finally able to exhale after this battle seemingly is over, and then consider me stunned when out of nowhere Lucan flies in and takes out Omni-Man. He actually survives being disemboweled and impaled to the wall, which unfortunately leads to the Viltrumites coming and collecting Omni-Man as a prisoner and taking him away. At this point, my emotions are already all over the place. They're deep in the trenches. It's already insane enough what we're going to be leading into with part 2, to then cap off General Kreek coming in to meet Mark, commending him that he proved himself in this battle and survived, and gives him that ultimatum, basically taking over for what his father was supposed to do in conquering Earth. Either Mark goes back to Earth, conquers it, and gets him prepared for the Viltrum Empire, or the Viltrumites are just going to come and massacre everybody on Earth. So really, it's not really a win-win. It's more of like a lose and lose even worse situation. So I can only imagine how insane part 2 of season 2 is going to be when we do inevitably get those next 4 episodes. We have a lot of stuff at stake here with Mark, Earth, the stuff with Angstrom, the fact that Omni-Man is held captive right now, and many other things. It's going to be a pretty insane second half of season 2 because overall, I enjoyed part 1 of season 2. It's tough to compare season 1 to just one part of season 2, so I'm going to reserve if I like season 2 more than season 1 once we get those next 4 episodes. But overall, I've been having a blast covering this show, and make sure you share your thoughts down below. How'd you feel about episode 4 of part 1 of season 2? Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? Either way, make sure you share your thoughts down below, because part of the fun is having that conversation with you guys in the comment section down below. And thank you guys, as always, for videos. I always do appreciate it. Be sure to like on the video and also subscribe to the channel so update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Next time, I'll see you guys later.